Hey joyful biped. So in this video I'm interviewing Augusto, a social partner dance teacher that lives in New Zealand but he's Brazilian. And Augusto took my first online training about counterbalances. Augusto got so good with counterbalances that he also travels to other Zouk events and loves to teach this skill. And in this interview we were talking about his journey and my journey with counterbalances and lots of symbologies from social partner dance that we take to the rest of our lives. I hope you enjoyed this content, and also in the description of the video here there's the link for you to subscribe to the free and online event about counterbalances 3 master classes that me and my dance partner Larissa are going to do starting November 4th. I hope you enjoyed the content. Let's go.
Zouk and kizomba are my favorite ones right now, and it's the ones that I usually travel around New Zealand to teach, Zouk and kizomba. My dance partner loves kizomba, and I love Zouk, and we kind of merge it up. And sometimes we teach kizouk, which is a mix of both as well. We're the only ones that teach kizouk in New Zealand.
Zouk, that's so nice. Cool.
It's pretty crazy, man. It's pretty crazy.
Augusto did our counterbalance online training, the first online training that me and Larry did. He got very, very good in counterbalance by his own training too, and started to travel around and spread his skills to other people in other events.
Yeah, man. I remember that course. It was so funny too, because it's such a different time as well. So I was having to wake up very early to do the course. But it
What
was
time
so
was it
worth
for you?
I think I had to wake up like 6:30, and then go to the dance studio. And I did it with one of my students. Her name is Joe. Out to Joe
Yeah, yeah.
Fairweather.
Joe.
We go super early and to do the class live, but I was like half asleep, but it was so worth it, man. I already liked counterbalance, but I didn't understand. I think the thing that stuck with me the most is the physics. I didn't understand the physics of the technique. And because you guys did such a well put together course with so many good explanations and analogies, man, it really clicked for me. It was really good.
Cool. I would like to know a little more, Augusto, about your journey and what you do with dance.
I started dance when I was doing my graduation course. I actually have a bachelor's degree in biological sciences with a teaching component. I think I started dancing when I was like 19, 20 years old, and now I'm 33. So I've been dancing for 13 years or so, like doing classes regularly. And then I became bolsista, intern at some point, and then I started teaching like 6 years ago in Brazil at the school called Dance Impar. Same school as Xandinho. Both of us were bolsista at the same time, and we kind of started teaching at the same time.
Small world.
Small world, man. Man, I fucking love Xandinho. And then I came here. I didn't think I was going to be teaching here because I was just a beginner teacher. I've been dancing for like 9 years before I came here. But then I was like, just beginning teacher. And I came here to study. But as soon as I came here, they were like, Zouk, teach me, do private lessons. Like after the first week I came here, already I started teaching private lessons to Joe, my student. She's my main student and does a lot of classes with me.
Yeah.
And then I met my dance partner and I was like, look, I want to teach more. And then I joined her dance school, and then we started teaching together, and mostly just Zouk on the start, but then I started learning more the other styles, salsa, bachata, and kizomba, which are very common here. Started teaching those styles as well. And then my dance partner during COVID decided to close her dance school because it was very hard, it hit her very hard. The place she had was quite big and expensive. So she decided, it's not worth it. I'm losing a bit of money. So if you want to open your school. And then I opened my school last year.
Oh, nice.
And then this year we changed to a place full time. So this is my space now that I'm renting full time.
What is the name of your school?
It's called Dança Latina.
Dança Latina.
Dança Latina Dunedin. Dunedin is the name of the city that I live. And then we started like teaching around New Zealand. Sometimes we taught in Australia as well. And we help organize events and compete. So a few times we won a few competitions, we won Zouk competitions here. We were the New Zealand Zouk champions from last year. And now we're just organizing and judging. We're kind of retiring from competing on some of the competitions.
You are also a dance lover, because when I see you in the social, when we talk about dance, you have so much passion about all the amazing discoveries that it brings to you, right?
Yeah, I'm very lucky. And people tell me that, like, man, can't believe you do this full time. Because especially in Brazil, right? If you're a dance teacher, you usually have another job. It's very hard to pay for your own bills just being a dance teacher, unless you're a school owner or something like that. And I was pretty much just a dance teacher most of the time that I was here. During COVID, I had to work with other jobs. just because I couldn't teach dance, but I'm living just off dance, and now with my dance school, I feel like the business is going well, and I'm sharing this passion of dance and making people healthier by dance. A lot of people tell me that it's like a therapy for them, and it helps them so much to socialize more and exercise and be happier, helps with their depression, their anxiety. I feel like dance is a form of therapy in a sense.
Yeah, for sure. The thing that we were talking about, dance is the most powerful treatment to the worst disease in society today, that is depression and anxiety, right?
I agree, man. And there's a lot of research to back it up, right? So people just need to dance more, get out of their phones, get out of their things a little bit, and get out of their couch. I know Netflix is fun and all of that, but it doesn't cure anxiety and your depression. It's movement, it's dance, especially movement to songs and to connect and hug people.
You know something that I was thinking about today? The movements, they bring virtues with them, right? If you learn how to do one-footed spins, for example, as a follower, you will learn to recognize your own balance, how to take help, and also how to ignore forces that would make you lose your balance and like distillate just what you need. So
It's so
this
crazy, man.
it's like a super skill for your life if you apply on your dialogues. The one-footed spins skill is the skill of getting a message that maybe would have some things to hurt you, some things from a place of pain, and some value. And you are able to get just the value that you want and ignore and not let the other things reach your center, you know?
Yeah. It's so great. You can learn so much making analogies through dance and life, right? The
Yeah.
analogy that I like to do too is like communication, man. It's like dancing is a language, and you need to understand when you're taking someone off balance and why they're getting off balance and help them regain that balance. And especially sometimes the leaders are like, but I led that and she didn't follow. And then I'm like, man, but how did you lead it? Did you notice if you were leading it clearly or not? Like the good leaders can listen and follow as well to understand, look, maybe I'm leading it too strongly, or maybe she's used to a lighter lead, or maybe she's used to the different point of axis, or a different range of the arm. So being a good leader is not just I do this with the teacher and it works and she can follow. It's like, man, if you're a really good leader or follower, you can dance with multiple people and try to find that communication, right?
And like
So cool.
the good leader will not even ask this question. He will ask better questions. Like,
Yeah.
why she answers like this? What is the pattern that she has in her body? And how do I reach the result that I want with this frame that she chose to have, or building up another frame in her body to have the result that I want?
Yeah, sometimes I tell my students too, like, because there's different dance schools and stuff, and people teach it slightly different. I'm like, I don't like even saying right or wrong. There's the right way and the wrong way to do a certain technique. I like to say, look, there's the way that works for me the most, and some teachers might teach it differently. And then if it doesn't work with someone that you dance from somewhere else, it's not like they were wrong or you were wrong. It's more like you just miscommunicated because you speak slightly different accents of this language.
And then talking about this thing of analogies and the health of dance, this and the symbology of the movements. About counterbalances, what do you feel that is the magic of counterbalances? Why do you appreciate counterbalance? Like when you are doing in a social, that magical moment where you boom counterbalance. What do you feel there?
Man, counterbalance is magical because sometimes I find that dance styles, they are based in tradition, and they're like, it's this way because the original is this way and this is how it's supposed to be taught, and It happens in kizomba, it happens in zouk, it happens in salsa, it happens in bachata. But when you do a technique like counterbalance, there's no like, this is the way we always did counterbalance and this is a tradition. No, it's more of a physics thing. It's us figuring out the physics. And your course made me understand that, because I remember a question that I asked on your course on the Q&A after the class. I was like, man, sometimes I'm trying to lead a counterbalance and the followers put their hip forward towards me. And I just don't know what to do, because the counterbalance doesn't work, the physics doesn't work. And then you're like, yeah, that's true. And sometimes they're not going to be aware of that. But what you could do is you can change your point of connection to lower, and they're doing the counterbalance now like a cambre. And I was like, and then that makes a stable balance. Man, the stable balance thing that you showed with the pieces of wood.
Can you explain?
I'll explain. So here, what I usually use is a coat hanger, the coat hanger. And when I travel around New Zealand to teach some workshops, when me and my dance partner say, let's teach a counterbalance workshop. And then I'm like, I'm going to bring my coat hanger. And then she's like, not the coat hanger again. But like, man, it's such a good way to explain. So the coat hanger is a good
I
way to
love the
explain the
coat.
angle of the person, right? And in your
Uh-huh.
course, you use two pieces of wood that were like this, right?
Uh-huh.
And then showing that the points of connection influence how the body wants to align on a stable balance. So if you're spinning around, and let's say this is the hip, and you
Mhm.
have a point of connection on the scapula, let's say this is the scapula of the follower, this is the hip going back, and this is the floor. And if I spin around, it's hard to show because of the camera, right? But if I spin around, the hips want to stay out. But sometimes the followers throw the hips in towards me. And then when I spin around, the body starts twisting until the hips kind of turn out and go outside again. It's probably
That
hard to see in
wow,
the camera, right?
bro. Now I will have to take a cliffhanger with me when I travel to Zouk events.
I have a better coat hanger. This one is not the best one because it has this line here. I usually get a
Uh-huh.
wood one, but it's at my place.
Uh-huh.
But anyway, and then this coat hanger made me understand that if their hips are forward, I can just hold underneath their lower back, behind their lower back, and then all of a sudden becomes a stable balance as well. So
Mm-hmm.
nowadays, counterbalance is by far my favorite technique to do on the social nights. If I feel like the floor is slippery and the follower is not completely beginnery, I'm gonna do a counterbalance. And no matter how they follow, especially because I'm tall, and I can hold most followers, no problem. No matter how they follow, I make it work. And they always get their mind blown, man. For them, quite often they say, man, it's like a roller coaster ride. They're like, wow, this is
Yeah.
happening. Some of them let go, and I know how to adapt to that, and some of them are a bit more tense. And if they see they're a bit more tense, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do a slightly slower one so I don't traumatize anyone, so they don't get too scared. Or if they know what they're doing and if they did your course, then I start
Uh-huh.
changing the footwork, change the angles, putting head movement and putting turns and spins and playing with it more. It's like endless possibilities. I love it.
Augusto, do you know it's hard for people to understand this reality of
Mm.
how it is your experience when counterbalances when you take the time to learn the fundamentals and get this freedom. I was thinking about because we're going to do the event, so I try to get what is the magic of the movement and verbalize it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Transforming words. And
Mm-hmm.
this thing that resonates so much with me that is counterbalance. It's a smile machine. Like it's impossible for you to do counterbalance with someone and the person doesn't feel like wow and start to smile. But I feel like people will listen to this and they will say like why you're being so extra, so fantastic. Because it's this, it's
Yeah.
crazy. You feel that anyone that you do this, they will have so much fun, just like they are in a roller coaster. And just like you said, you can go slow and hey, you see, you are safe, or you can start to challenge them and go faster and see how their body is going to react with the adrenaline of the movement. If they're going to feel fear, if they're going to feel excitement, and you can choose like how much you want to challenge them.
Man,
It's so fun,
the
right?
analogy that I remember too that I always use in the classes as well is the dipping the toes in the water that you guys had.
Uh-huh.
That's so key too, because sometimes I feel like people know one counterbalance that's very extreme. And then
Mm-hmm.
they go like, wow, and super big or leg out and stuff, and then it's a bit too much. And then I teach all my students, okay, you don't know who you're dancing with, if they're used to it or not. Dip the toes first, just test the water, go in the water together slowly, because then you
Mm-hmm.
can build it up as a follower and as a leader and make it completely relaxing and fun. Sometimes I think the thing that gets in the way of people, they know that one counterbalance from that one class that maybe didn't cover all the details and they just go for it. And then this building up and testing out, man, is one of the key things that I think I took from your course that I take it to heart and teach it all the time as well.
That's super nice. I'm so
And the
happy
other
to
thing
hear
too is sometimes I'm dancing with people and they have a hard time connecting their frame and until they understand how to match the pressure and how to do certain things. But I feel like counterbalance is one of those few moves that if you're not connected, it doesn't work because there's no way I'd do a counterbalance with someone if I cannot connect with their frame or their scapula or their arm, right? So
that.
it's one of the moves that the connection is a must. You cannot do a Wi-Fi counterbalance, for instance,
Yeah.
and there's a bunch of moves you can do Wi-Fi.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like that's once you feel that connection and that kind of letting go, that kind of almost like trust exercise, it's such
Mm-hmm.
a way to connect two dancers that most other techniques don't have.
That's so true. I see that you value a lot putting the counterbalance experience in a relaxing way. And that's great. I also do
Yeah.
that. Being able to go slowly and build it up. But there's another side of the spectrum that I use a lot, and even more when I'm dancing with guys that usually don't follow. You know,
Ah,
usually some guys that are starting to follow, they come to dance with me, and they are not used, so they're not going to let go. They're not going to relax the frame. They're not going to like be empty, but they want to. So
mm,
sometimes I go to a more like strong frame and more forceful,
mhm,
but in a good way.
mhm,
I just
mhm.
hold their upper bodies, you know, like da, do some pressure like this, put them in the legs, send them back, and don't give them much options. And already take them.
Yeah,
Sometimes I
yeah,
I even ask like, can you raise your arms? And then when they raise their arms, I do the counterbalance for them to not even be holding me,
yeah,
you know?
yeah, yeah.
And it's so fun too because when they feel that it's stable and they can trust, and it's like, wow, it's working. I just have to stand here. Someone is
Mhm,
taking care of my weight and is working. Leaders, they are
mhm.
usually not used. Like, usually we just receive weight and support, but we don't get vulnerable and give our weight.
I remember when we danced last year on an event, and I usually don't like, I follow, okay? I follow, I do some following on my classes, but I'm mostly a leader, especially because
Mhm,
I'm tall and I'm heavy, and sometimes I'm way more than 100 kgs. I'm trimming up, but it's pretty hard, some of these techniques, because I'm so tall and heavy, sometimes.
mhm,
And then I'm like, whenever someone tries to counterbalance me, I'm always holding, and I'm always doing what I teach people not to do, like don't hold too much, let the leader set the distance, stuff like that. But I
uh-huh.
find it so hard to trust and be like, man, but I'm so heavy. How are they going to hold me? And then I danced with you, and you did all sorts of counterbalances with me. And then I'm like, wow, man, how is he doing this? And I remember you did an outside counterbalance, and I don't even remember how you were holding me. By my arms are free. I was like, man, I'm actually not even holding him. And then I just started like doing my arms. We even have
Uh-huh.
this in video. I think we have this in
Yeah, yeah,
video, okay?
yeah.
I have to put the
Yeah, we
voice over
have the
to you.
video of this.
And then I was like, I'm just gonna play with my arms here. And you were kind of holding me and doing, and I was like, wow, it's so liberating. And it's a feeling that
Uh-huh.
I don't get to feel that often because I'm mostly leading the counterbalances.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah, it's so
even more for you because you're bigger than me, right? And
yeah,
that's why I love to like practice strength training like calisthenics and this other kind of stuff and
yeah.
being able to have this strength to use in this situation. There is some technique for me to do counterbalance with you, like I have to keep it small, I have to keep it stable, but there's also some strength that I use to be able to do it comfortably and don't be like
Yeah.
killing myself. And
I
it's
find
so
that as well.
fun. It's so
Sorry.
fun
Go.
to be able to provide the sensation to big tall leaders too, you know? Like
Yeah.
you, like Saulo.
Man, I never danced with solo, but a few times I danced with other leaders here, and and sometimes they're counterbalancing me, and sometimes I dance with other tall leaders here, other teachers, they're
Mhm,
counterbalancing me, and then I'm like, it's so hard to let go, but at some point I'm like, okay, let me try to steal, and then I think I learned on your course too how to change the counterbalance, like how to, I'm being led and I go under and I start leading and I suspend the person. And
uh-huh.
sometimes I do that too, and we start swapping, and I do that with some of my students too. And I find exactly what you said, man. Especially if you work out, like I'm not working out as much, but I still like do workouts at home and stuff. I feel like crap. If I wasn't as physically fit, I wouldn't be able to do this counterbalance right now. Because sometimes, especially if you're leading other guys that don't know fully the technique or that are the same size as you and stuff, or heavier than you need a lot of force to kind of compensate and make it work, right? It's quite tricky.
Yeah, I would say especially back strength, right? Pull strength
Yeah,
to hold like
yeah.
the tug war.
Yeah, and the other thing that I really like about it too is this idea of sharing the axis, because usually the ones doing the spinning on the axis is the followers. So the followers are usually on the axis, and then all of a sudden we're kind of sharing the axis with that base and doing the colgadas, right, from tango. And I freaking love that you covered the where it comes from, the tango, the colgadas, and the volcadas, and playing with the axis too, because once you understand the axis of the counterbalance, like people are doing this, and then all of a sudden the leader comes out of the axis a bit and puts the follow in the middle and does some spins, and then this again, and maybe bring the follow to the axis again, but maybe do a lean and do a volcado, and kind of playing with those ideas. And once you understand these different concepts, endless possibilities, and then you can mix with the carousel as well. So if the person knows the carousel, knows the counterbalance, knows the one-legged spins, man, you can do an endless combo, switching the legs and doing all sorts of crazy things. I love playing with those
Yeah.
things and all that I learned on your courses, you know?
That's super cool. That's super cool. It gives me so much energy. Do you know something like that's exactly why we chose to create this courses focusing just one theme and then building up? Because our dance is social, right? So it's like a fight, it's like a game. It's a lot more than just learning the habits, the moves. Imagine that that's a fight. Like if you just learn a sequence of strikes and you go to a real fight scenario and you try to apply that, chaos is going to take over and you're going to see that that sequence doesn't translate that well to improvisation and chaos in reality, you know? For us, we as social partner dancers, is just like the fight journey. First, we have to memorize the moves, and then we have to be able to execute 100% of beginning, middle, and end. And then we have to get the basic techniques, and then we have to be able to play with dynamics, and then we have to be able to adapt to different scenarios, and then we have to be able to be creative with different solutions to that, and to the point that we can get a sequence or a movement and completely break it, reorganize, use it in creative ways, you know, and
Mhm.
adapt to any situation that life brings us.
So
And
true, man.
dance shows us how to practice this. We have the gift of going in a party where everyone is doing that.
Yeah, that's it, man. For me, what I tell my students, especially like my higher level classes, I'm like, man, it's important to know the structures. It's important to know the fundamentals and how the stepping patterns work and how we connect and do the techniques. But once you understand it, man, play with it, you know, mix it up. Because for me, nowadays, every time I dance with anyone, I want to do something different. I want to play, I want to do my body, change something, change the bonus, change the soltinho, slow it down, speed it up, do some X's, do
Uh-huh.
something. Because sometimes I feel like my students come to me and tell me, that person didn't connect with me very well and just gave me the beginner dance, just the lateral, just the simple bonus, just this, just that. It was like just repeating these patterns. And sometimes they try to repeat something that they learned, but they don't know how to properly make it work. And I'm like, man, but it shouldn't be just those patterns. It should be like use that as the basis, but then play with it, you know? Mix it up and add some hip hop and add some other types of movements and kind of evolve the dance in a sense. Because I'm a biologist, I like evolution, you know. So I feel like all the dances should evolve. You shouldn't get too stuck with how it began, but like what it's becoming, you know. And I feel like Zouk is one of the dance styles that evolves the most. Of the ones that I know, it's the one that evolves the most, you know, because there's so many techniques from all the styles that come along and join up, like counterbalance, you know.
Mhm. Bro, this makes me think about some stuff. For example, in the beginning of my journey, there was this moment where I got so many combos that I like to do more. So the dance was more organized, but also had these combos. And if you watched like 5 demos, you would see I repeating kind of the same combos. And as the
Yeah.
time passed by, I started to like more the messiness and the exploration. So I
Yeah.
started to have less combos. I still have some, but if you watch 5 videos, 5 dances, you see lots of moves that I will never do again. I just did there, strange positions that I passed through, and I love this. And the
Mm.
mindset behind this is like, look, if I get 10 combos and I train over and over, I will have a very impressive dance for those who watch around. So if I'm going to use in a demo, everyone that is watching for the first time, they're going to look and wow. But for me, it's going to be repetitive, you know?
Yeah.
And maybe for Larissa too, for my partner too. So
Yeah.
it will still have the fun of showing the combos that we train to someone else and getting this people getting excited to dance more energy. But for us, it's going to be like, yeah, like when I start the combo, she already knows what is coming. So
Yeah.
I'm not being that interesting to her. And I feel like this motivates me a lot. Like when I dance with Vladi, I wanna show her that I'm creative. So how do I show her that already danced with so many different leaders and already danced so many times with me? I'm going to have to do something that I've never done before, you
Yeah.
know? And then also this energy of like, I want to surprise me. Like I want to be interested on what is coming from this dance
Mm.
conceptually, you know?
Yeah, man, I remember a video that you made once telling about the different experience between leaders and followers and how leaders usually, even though they're dancing with different people, the moves they do is still like the moves they do, you know? The moves they do is still like the same. And I used to be like that too. I'm like, these are the sequences that work. I'm going to keep repeating, just mix and match a little bit the order. But the dances for me were like too repetitive. And then I remember a video that you said, and if you're a follower, every dance is different, you know? But at the same time, you don't know what the leaders know and vice versa. So it's a bit more of a guessing game. But then at some point, doing some exploration of my own philosophy of dance, and I like meditating a lot, you know, and playing with these states of mind, I find that the dances that I have the most fun are the ones that I'm not planning anything or thinking anything. So I've been exploring a lot about meditation and different states of mind and the default mode network on our brain too that creates patterns, you know. Sometimes I listen to a song, and if I'm not thinking about anything, if I'm fully present and fully connected with my partner, I'm not planning anything. I'm just like my body's doing things that kind of make sense. And sometimes it repeats some things, but sometimes it creates new things, you know? And I think being present for leader and follower is one of the things that makes the dance the most fun for me. Sometimes if I'm training or doing a choreography, then of course I have to repeat the same pattern and we both have to try to do the pattern, but it doesn't feel as good as just being present and improvising and creating, you know? So I'm lately I've been trying to do what you described as well, like with my dance partner. So the dance is not as repetitive when we practice. I try to be creative. I try to create new things, and sometimes even on the demo, you know, we're doing a demo and like I'm just gonna try this. If it works, it works, and sometimes works, sometimes doesn't. And even if we do like a little miscommunication, it's part of dance, you know. Like we're not perfect beings that
Uh-huh.
gonna get everything flowy and
Exactly.
right and perfect every time, you know. So it's kind of accepting that as well. Sometimes people are like, man, I need to do everything that I know super well, the same combos because I know that works, blah blah blah. But maybe sometimes not what fits the song, you know. Kind of
Yeah.
have to be present and see what the song is asking for, and see what you can communicate with your partner and see what comes, you know.
Yeah, for sure. Who is the best dancer? Is the one that is
Mm,
having most fun,
that's it. That's
right?
true.
So in a demo, if you are not taking risks of trying a risk idea that could be amazing if you do it because you are afraid of other people's judgment, you are not having the most fun. So you're not being the best dancer, the social
Yeah,
dancer, in my opinion. And
true.
that's it. Like
And
when you go to this place of what is the purpose of what I'm teaching here? I'm teaching people how to improvise in a dance party. You can take those risks, and if something goes wrong, is going to be an opportunity to show how do you deal with when your expectations are frustrated, when you fall, when you lose
yeah,
your balance. Does
yeah,
this affect your vibe? Like how do you deal? Is a or it's like opportunity. It
yeah,
triggers creativity. How is it? How your personality deals with the mistake, right?
yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, man, it's so cool lately. And this was inspired by your classes too, because I attended a few of your classes. I'm like, man, they're so focused on the drills and the technique rather than the combos, you know? Sometimes you go, especially other styles, like you go to a salsa class, a high level salsa class is a big choreography of combos, like cross body turn with this comb and this flick and this and that. And people keep repeating the same combo. And that's the beauty of Zouk for me, like, especially doing a class from you guys. Oh, let's do a drill here. Let's do a drill to find the axis to help each other balance, going around each other. That drill that you do for your one-legged spin class, that the leader supports and goes around the follower and puts some noise in the system to mimic in case they're turning and something goes wrong, you know, or
Mhm.
something about Shanjin does this a lot, like creating new paths and adapting to new ways. And lately, I've been focusing more on this on my classes too, because man, in the end, I don't want them to just be repeating the same moves. I want them to be able to understand the techniques and mix them up. And if something, a mistake happens, a miscommunication happens, make something out of it and use that as an opportunity instead of being like, this person didn't get it, and let me go back to my basic again, you know? So, which is pretty common.
So nice. I was thinking about too that social partner dance, and I call the social dance game, as we were talking about. If we
Yeah.
think about this leading and following system that we have, and this unification that is happening in between the social partner dances, it triggers three things in our personality. That is, first, the artistic side. So dance triggers you to develop your artistic side. The athlete side. So there's this part of movement and stretch and body awareness and quality of movement and efficiency and strength and biomechanics and all of this. And also a social aspect of being part of a community and a society and having your place and serving and connecting, that thing of the embrace. So this is also going to show you that when you connect and you contribute with someone else and you co-create, is good, it's fun, it's nice. You know, that's why I feel it's so powerful too.
Yeah, I think one of the best benefits of dance is that community aspect, because there's other sports that are also good for mental health, for your physical well-being, like running, you know, or biking. But in a sense, you're just repeating the same pattern most of the times by yourself. Of course, you can run with a group of people and stuff, but you're just repeating the pattern by yourself. But dance is that, is like you're connecting with other people, you're part of the society, this community, right? And all of a sudden you're traveling because of it, and you're meeting other communities, and you're trying to merge, and you're trying to see, and like, you know. And there's also this kind of hierarchy too, which I don't like very much, but it's part of that, because there's the teachers and the international teachers and the people who are all-star, and the people who are advanced Jack and Jill dancers, or intermediate Jack and Jill, or novice. And then there's this whole hierarchy. Sometimes some people dance with most of one level than the other, you know, and we kind of have to learn how to navigate that, you know, because I don't like the fact that sometimes there's this segregation, but it's part of the community, you know. And at least on my school, I try to dance with everyone and make everyone feel welcome. But I think one of the biggest challenges of Zouk right now, it's a pretty tricky dance style that has a lot of techniques, that has a high entry level barrier. Because if you're dancing a forró, like just like an easy forró, not like a harder style, or bachata, for instance, it's pretty low entrance, you know. It's like 3 steps and a tap, or 2 and 2, and you're good, you know. Not many neck movements and stuff. But in Zouk, when you see these people doing counterbalance and neck movements and stuff, and all of a sudden you're dancing with a beginner, but then people don't have patience to dance with the beginner, you know. And then how do we make the dance grow and spread around the world more, you know? So that community aspect is super important, in my opinion. And at least on my dance school, I try to create a community that's very inclusive, you know, and patient, and being like, man, we gotta nurture the beginners so they stay, you know. I feel like sometimes in other dance schools or other events that I go, there's a bit of this no patience for the beginners, you know, in a sense. Yeah.
I feel like hierarchies, they are always going to be there, you know, they are part of the structure of the thing. But the thing is, you can have a hierarchy with a good level of awareness, or a hierarchy with a bad level of awareness. Just like when you were talking about, oh, if my student comes to me and say like, that person didn't connect with me, you know, he's in a position where he's putting himself in a victim place and putting the blame in someone else, and say like, oh, that person didn't connect with me. So this is the same mindset that is going to make people not want to dance with beginners, not because they are tired or they really want to dance with someone high level, because you know, sometimes high level dancers want to dance with high level dancers, the same way that black belts sometimes want to roll with black belts, in the same way that people that are advanced sometimes, like what we're doing right now, we're having a conversation where we can talk about dance stuff from a place where both of you are very experienced in that. But doesn't mean that if someone that doesn't dance comes and say, hey, I would like to talk with you about dance, like we would like to talk about dance too, but it's different. It's just different, right? So I feel like the thing is this: there's awareness. There's awareness of bringing the stuff to you, back to you, and being in this place of dealing with what it is. It's not like, oh, that person didn't connect with me. Understanding that when you develop your speaking skills and your reading skills, you're going to be able to analyze what is happening, analyze that frame, and be able to come up with plans to communicate what you want to communicate. If it's a step,
That's
it's the
exactly
right
what I
thing.
think, man. That's exactly what I think. Like, if you're speaking with someone a different language, right? Like we're speaking English right now, and then all of a sudden there comes a completely beginner English speaker that doesn't know how to put the phrases together. Our attitude shouldn't be like, he can speak just a few words, I'm not going to talk to him, or just going to talk to him for a little bit, and that's that. to be like, man, how can I talk to him in a way that he's going to understand and he can feel comfortable to express himself as well. So it's this language analogy communication. And like you said, because some people know more of a language, then that means we can have more complex conversations, right? So if I dance with someone that understands a lot of techniques that I also understand, then we're going to have a much more complex conversation. But at the same time, too, people who still learning the language or have a intermediate skill in the language, if we're really good communicators, we should also be able to speak them and make a pretty interesting conversation, even though it's not going to be like the most complicated conversation ever.
Yeah.
Still going to be a pretty good one, right?
Yeah. And then I also feel like the enlightenment, the last level of the thing is we are feeling so abundant with dance that any person that comes to dance with us, even if it's a totally beginner, like we are so aware of concepts that we will see that beginner and we will be able to read that body and adapt ours. And if that person walks like this, we are going to glue and also walk that way. And even if we are leading, we are following all of those unconscious aspects to be able to connect and then from there lead the other thing. So everything gets interesting. Even mistakes, like you start to see mistakes just as patterns. So let's say, oh, every time that I do this left turn, the follower fully disengages the frame. Cool. So if I take this as what it is, how can I explore that or how can I create this holding sensation for her? You know?
One of my favorite exercises to teach, and me and my dance partner's name is Emily, by the way. Shout out to Emily as well, Emily Armstrong. I fucking love her to death. One of our favorite exercises to do is tell the followers to be rebels, you know, and tell the leaders to just make something out of it. So this exercise I actually first saw from Bruno Galhardo's class, like maybe 10 years ago. He was doing this workshop and he just said, followers don't follow, do whatever you want, and leaders go with them. You know, man, it was such a cool exercise. And we did it a couple of times recently. We did it last time on our event this year and a couple other times. It's such a learning opportunity because the moment the follower follows something else that you were planning, but you can smooth it out and make it into something fluid, then there are no mistakes anymore. Sometimes I dance with a few more beginnery people that maybe they don't know how to do a bonus, or maybe they don't know some particular structure that I'm expecting them to step in a particular way, but they don't know to step there. And I just make something out of it and they don't even notice, like they didn't follow what I originally wanted, you know? And then they dance and they're like, man, this dance was so flowy, it was so good, it was so this. And at the same time, it was actually really fun and flowy, but at the same time, there was a bunch of things that I kind of compensated in a way, but it was still pretty fun, you know? We can make it an even more smooth and beautiful experience if we apply those principles, you know?
And the follower feels like, he was in my mind, what was happening, right? And they feel like most of them don't notice that we were adapting to their ideas and following their inputs and reinforcing their inputs, right? That's so fun. I was talking with
It's so crazy.
Fredinho about that. And do you know something super cool too? This is so connected with the selling process. So we are selling ideas when we lead something, right? We want to make them feel like doing something. We sell a lateral, we sell a turn. And selling is about asking questions, right? So you're going to buy something for your purpose, for your reasons. If I ask you the right questions, I can help you to come to the conclusion of doing what you want to do, right? So a good leader, his leading is questions. And then he watches the answer. And then when the answer comes, from that answer, he asks the next question, right?
Wow.
That question, that answer led him to a position where from now he's in a place that asks the next question that makes sense. So it's flowy, it flows. Now, the beginner leader that comes with the habits, he affirms something. And he's not ready to deal with the chaos of possibilities of answers. You know?
Man, that's such a good analogy. That's such a good, I never thought of it like that. Sometimes I teach my students like this. Look, build up your dance, start with something easier, but I always framed in a sense of like, test it out, you know, more like a test, like, test this, then test that. Can they follow body roll? Can they follow the basic turning patterns? Can they follow this? Can they follow a simple S turn, you know, or one-legged spin? And then you test it out. But I never thought of framing it like questions. I think that's a better way to frame it because in the sense we don't want the followers to be doing an exam and be like ticking the boxes to be able to do the next level thing. We want to have a conversation, right? So I quite like that. I'm gonna start using that.
Cool, right?
Asking the question.
Yeah, and like when you ask open questions, you're planting seeds that can generate so much stuff. So for example, and then when you do that, when you plant those seeds, you're going to see which kind of environment the person is in, and you're going to know more about that person by how that person answered, how that seed that you sent to that person is nurtured. So sometimes you will ask questions and it will hit limiting beliefs that someone has in their heads. Right? So you ask, hey, would you like to go here? And then there will be a limiting belief that is saying, like, oh, I can't go there. Why you are asking me that? I can't. It's not like I don't want or I want. It's like I can't, right?
Yeah.
And then you feel that body that is like, how do I answer this?
Yeah.
And this is so cool for followers to understand. That is, being a good follower is being a follower that is able to listen to different questions and honestly, without judgments, just see what comes out from that and honor that and nurture and make it a reality.
Man, that's so true. I have some of my students that they're learning like Zouk and they're improving quite fast, but they're quite new to the scene, but they're improving quite fast. And sometimes I taught something in the class. Let's say I taught like a rapper and rap yo-yo. I taught a yo-yo in the class. And then social night comes. I start leading the yo-yo, but maybe I do a different ending. I do a different angle. I put a self turn. I put something different. And then they're like, why are you testing me? This is not the one we did in the class. I was like, I know it's not the one we did in the class, but we can mix it up, And then I try to explain in a nice way too, because they're just understanding how the dance works. I'm like, in the end, man, you're not going to know what the leaders saw in their classes, especially if you dance with leaders from other dance schools. So you're going to have to be present and trust and just kind of go with it and make something out of it. And it's fine if you don't do exactly what I want as well, So this is what I try to teach in my class. Don't worry about being wrong. Worry about giving up and being like, oh, but that's not the one I saw, or that's not the one I know, Just do what you can with the best of your abilities and try to make something out of it,
This also makes me think that you are helping them to have a more conceptual toolkit to deal with reality, right? So you have concepts, and if something comes, you apply those concepts. So you become more versatile to deal with chaos versus you just have habits that are so solid that they are not adaptable, right? And this habits is also connected with a linear view of time in the sense of the past controls the present and the present controls the future, like Newton's view of linear time. But this vision that you're bringing to this more conceptual view is more about not a linear time, but about the present and the eternity and how you be more present, right? Because then it's about better framing your experiences in the past, getting lots of different experiences and distillating the concept that makes them together, and then understanding that now, if you have a new experience that shares these concepts, you have knowledge from all your experiences to do with that and already predict what is going to happen. That's what I wanted to say.
Wow, man. Philosophizing, getting deep on the philosophizing of the thing, the physics.
Yeah, and that's the thing, like this opens you to the unknown because the person that is thinking in a linear way, they're going to be living the same experience over and over, copy and paste, copy and paste. The yo-yo is going to be same yo-yo over and over. Now, if they think like this, if the song does well, the yo-yo is already going to be different, new, fresh, a new experience, abundant, enriching.
Yeah, sometimes I feel like this is actually so interesting because I feel like what used to happen to me, okay? I used to be quite of this, okay, let me do the sequence from the class, let me do this, let's see which sequences fit together, But then I realized that the best dances that I had were when there was an event that I was dancing every day and very tired and doing workshops or teaching workshops. And then the last party of the last event on the last hours when the DJ comes with different music that's a bit more trippy, my brain would be so tired that the prefrontal part of my brain, the prefrontal cortex, which controls the things a little more and does the planning and stuff, is so tired that's almost like you're drunk, right? That you're tired of planning. You just kind of do what comes, you know?
Mhm.
And then I was like, man, those were my best dances, especially when I danced with my dance partner, Emily. We'd be like, okay, pretty much the last half an hour of the event would be us dancing together and discovering new things. And it would be the best dances we had, you know? And then we're like, man, how can we achieve that without having to be underslept and tired and overworked and the body tired and all that? And there's many ways to achieve that. And one of my favorite ways right now is just like philosophizing a bit, like you're doing, and being present, you know, being present and open and not too deterministic on my views of the dance. Being like, let's see what comes. Let's see what the song makes our bodies do, instead of being like, I gotta do this. Now we're planning the toile. Now we're training the toile. Let's just do the toile. But maybe sometimes the song's not asking for a normal toile. Maybe we gotta do a slower one or a faster one or one more on the axis or something, you know?
Mhm.
So I feel like that's what helps me most when I think less, you know, plan less.
Sure, for sure. The death of the ego, right? Becoming the
Yeah.
witness and something else is planning on you and you're just watching the
Yeah,
unfold
that's
of
it,
the
man.
movements.
That's it. Some people call the concept of the muse. Have you heard of the concept of the muse?
No.
The muse is almost like somehow an idea sprouts in your brain. It's because of a muse inspiring you. And that helps in all sorts of artistic fields and people who have to be creative, you know?
Oh, I
And all
see
of a sudden,
views.
like, yeah, the muse, like a musa, you know?
Uh-huh.
Musa da criatividade. I don't know. Creative
Like
muse. I don't know.
inspiration.
Inspiration. And then, like, sometimes just about, like, man, just quiet your thoughts a little bit and wait for that little click. Sometimes, especially if I have a move that I'm like, fuck, I'm trying to figure out a sequence for a choreography or something, and then I sleep on it, and all of a sudden on my sleep, something comes up, you know? And all of
Uh-huh.
a sudden I'm doing this sequence on my sleep. I was like, man, I just dreamed I was doing that, you know? Where did that idea comes from? So this is the idea
Yeah.
of the moves, that someone put this idea on our brains. And this is what I find happens when we're not thinking too much, when we're more present, you know? And we kind of let that ego die and just see what comes.
The source of creativity is emptiness, right?
Yeah, man. Oh, that's a good phrase. I never heard it before. The source of creativity is emptiness. That's so true, man.
Yeah.
Actually, so true.
I was thinking about that even more for us. We work with dance, so a huge part of our work is not looking for more information. A huge part of our work is looking for silence.
Mhm.
As artists, as dancers, we need to look for silence and meditate or go to that place where we give space to emptiness to feel this muse, to feel this like presence, to enjoy transferring your weight from one side to the other to feel like dancing, to all of this.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite things to do nowadays.
Yeah,
So
that's the
cool, right?
goal. Bro, thank you so much for this. I
Pleasure, man. My
appreciate
pleasure.
you.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate
I
you.
freaking appreciate it. And man, I must say, man, you're such a source of inspiration. My God, ever since I did your first course, I was like, man, this guy, you and Larissa, of course, right? Because you're dance partners and you build these things together. But you two, you're like, man, you know your shit. You have so many cool ways of teaching that really inspired me to teach in different ways and ways that I think it makes even more sense, you know? So a huge source of inspiration, man. I think you guys are doing such an amazing job. I'm kind of, I don't know, changing my teaching style because of that. And I think it's making more sense and I'm able to connect with my students better and teach, especially tricky techniques like counterbalance better, you know, because of you and Larissa and what you guys did and what you're building, you know? So awesome, awesome stuff.
Thank you so much. Bro, I already have few students in the world that I look and I say, okay, this guy is very good in counterbalance right now. This guy is very good. This guy is very good. The guys that already can do seamlessly transitions, counterbalance with head movements, lots of different ideas. Like, when you get to a high level of counterbalance, when you see someone else do it and you see like, oh, that person is freestyling. That person knows how to do counterbalance. Like when you watch Edgar doing or lots of other great leaders. And you are one of my most amazing
Hey,
students in
I
counterbalance.
appreciate it, man. I appreciate it.
I'm
Fucking
so
hell.
proud. I'm so proud. And when we danced together, it was so nice to like do counterbalance with you.
Was cool, right? That's
So
fucking cool,
nice.
man. Oh my God, let's dance more. When I go to Brazil, we'll meet and dance more, man. I wanna test. And then like this is the cool thing too. you inspired me and I learned the techniques that you taught me. And now I'm trying to create some of my own, you know? And now I get to, and then the thing kind of comes back as well, because now next time we dance, I'm going to try some of the things that I created in quotations, like, because other people might be doing it as well.
Uh-huh.
And then I'm going to see, okay, let's see if the seed that you planted with that course in my brain, it sprouted and became something different. That let's see if I can connect with you again and lead something that I just started doing, you know? So that's going to be a fun one. Yeah.
If you like this video, don't forget to like, share, send to your Zouk friends, comments here, your thoughts.
That's cool, man. Good
Thank you
stuff.
so much.